Hello again. Today's video is going to be about my new lathe. I have finally upgraded, and after an awful lot of research and some correspondence, quite lengthy correspondence actually, with Bob Hamilton on his opinions and some advice, spent quite a few hours trolling the internet and acquiring information. I had a specific set of parameters. I wanted to use a little bit less space, because I think as you get a little bit more experienced, you begin to feel the shortcomings of the very basic entry-level lathes. I'm absolutely, as I say, over the moon with mine. Without further ado, what I intend to do is to sort of show you the lathe in its entirety, and just give you a bit of spec, the name of it, etc. And then we'll get up close and personal with it and just show you what it does. Well, this is the lathe in its entirety. There's the little beastie. It's about 18 inches shorter than my old lathe, but that is by design. I wanted something a little less room hungry, because I very rarely, if ever, use the full length of a full length lathe, and my reasoning behind having a shorter bed lathe was, number one was room, and number two, if I spent the same sort of amount of money on a shorter bed lathe, I might get, which I have done, get a better quality, heavy, more robust basic machine. You can in actual fact buy bed extensions for this, and the bed extension comes out at 18 inches. You can make it a much longer lathe if you want to, but that's not something that I was interested in. So, basic dimensions, the length is 1150mm, the width is 560 and the height is 550. One thing, because of the higher spindle height from the bed and with the legs attached, it's the ideal height for me. I'm 6'2", the centre of the spindle comes just at the bend of my elbow, so I haven't got to do any raising to make it the right height for me to work on, so that was an added bonus as well. It could do 28 inches or 710mm between centres as it stands without the bed extensions, and I can turn a 16-inch bowl 406mm over the bed. And the spindle is also a beefier spindle. My other one was 1 inch by 8 TPI. This one is an M33 by 3.5mm, so it's a much beefier spindle as well on the headstock. The main thing is the motor. It's a 2 horsepower motor, which is sort of 1 1/3 more power and torque than my old one. Part of the Axminster Trade series, which is a new introduction of lathes that Axminster are producing, and this one is the AT1628VS. The lathe itself, as a basic unit, comes what they call a bench top. So this lighter portion here, that's the lathe. Well, I didn't want to build a bench for it. I wanted the legs, so I purchased cast iron legs, which are extremely well made, heavy cast, good quality, and damned heavy. The whole lathe comes in at about 170 kilos, which is about 80 kilos, 70 kilos more than my other lathe. Actually, the lathe itself, without the cast iron legs, weighs more than my whole lathe did, my other lathe. So the stability is absolutely rock solid. There are 4 adjustable feet at the bottom, which, with this floor especially being unlevel, or not as level as it could be, you could adjust it and get it really level. The other thing which really impresses me, which is something I haven't worked with before, is the cam lock for the tool rest and for the tailstock. Effortless use, absolutely superb. There's a nice little feature here where you can, because what I intend to do, this is the reason for me going for this sort of size of lathe, is to turn bowls and possibly even hollow out larger forms from the end of the lathe. Just merely take the tailstock off, and it does slip off very easily. I've got a surface next to which I will put it on, and I must probably make a little resecting bit of wood for that, so I just slot it in there and then slot it back in when I want it on again. So that was the idea behind getting the shorter lathe. The bedways are actually about a third bigger. Each girder, if you like, is a third wider than my old lathe. It's really solid. A really neat feature and a great feature is the control panel. You've got your on and your off switch, your variable speed control with a dial, and a switch there for forward and reverse. So everything is to hand, and wherever you happen to be working on the lathe, this will just go where you want it. So it's there. There's virtually no movement in the tailstock from side to side on the bedways. It's a very tight fit. Once it's centered here, I don't have to keep checking it, the tailstock, whether it's going to be point to point between the spur center and the live center. And one of the main things is the torque. It's a 2 horsepower motor, as I said. It is phenomenal, it really is, to me. I'll turn him on and listen. .27, and now we're running at 3745. Now there are 2 belt ratios. By means of opening this little door here, you have 2 belt ratios. You undo the pulley lock, you move this handle to loosen the belt, move the belt onto the next ratio, and then reverse what you've just done, and job is done. On the ratio it's on now, it gives me 150 revs up to 3750. To be quite honest, I think it'll be very rare that I'll actually move the belt, because it's got another feature that I like compared to the other one, is that the motor is sort of reverse mounted, so that you're not sucking in all the shavings, etc., because the other one, the motor was here and it's directly in the line of fire, and it's sort of sucking in cool air to keep the motor cool, but it's also sucking in dust, etc. So that's another feature which is great. Now the big problem I have is that my old lathe was a 1" by 8 TPI spindle thread, whereas this is a M33 by 3.5 mil, so it's a bigger thread. So I only have the 1 chuck, and obviously that fitted the old machine. I had to purchase an adapter so that I could use the chuck. I have actually ordered another chuck. I've ordered the Axminster Evolution, which hopefully will be here sometime in April/May. I didn't know which. I looked at the Patriot chuck, I looked at the one-way chucks, I looked at the Versa chuck, and the reason I went again with Axminster is because all my jaws and my accessory mounting jaws obviously fit Axminster chucks, but they don't necessarily fit other chucks. I think the Versa chuck was one it would have fitted. However, I went with the other chuck, and the problem with this is, is when I put it on, it has a terrific, there's an awful lot of weight out from the spindle, and the new chuck has is built in such a way where it is really tight up to here, so there's very little overhang, which again should reduce vibration, etc. Having said that, I have used that setup there with something, and it was absolutely rock solid, and that basically is it. Anyway, that's enough of that, I think, boring everybody to death. As I say, if I've missed anything out, drop me a note and I'll either send you an email back or I'll mention it in my next video. Well, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.